What's more anti-Semitic than that? There's only one thing in the world, and that's Jeremy Corbyn. So tomorrow, or maybe when you're watching this today, the UK will be voting for their next Prime Minister. It's basically Boris Johnson and Brexit, or Jeremy Corbyn and Hamas. Now, Jeremy Corbyn is a very interesting character. Jeremy Corbyn is friends with Hamas and Hezbollah. And I'm going to show you this video of Jeremy Corbyn just talking about his friends. And we usually focus on the first part. This is the one that everyone sees, where he says, my friends from Hezbollah, and I invited my friends from Hamas, but the Israelis wouldn't let the Hamas come. I really think the second part, which is the less seen part of this video, is more important. So I know that a lot of you have seen the first half of this video, but the second half I find is a lot more telling. So just run the Jeremy Corbyn clip.
I want to first of all say thank you everyone for being here tonight, and say that tomorrow evening it will be my pleasure and my honour to host an event in Parliament where our friends from Hezbollah will be speaking. I'd also invited the friends from Hamas to come and speak as well. Unfortunately, the Israelis would not allow them to travel here, so it's going to be only friends from Hezbollah. So far as I'm concerned, that is absolutely the right function of using parliamentary facilities to invite people from other parts of the world so that we can promote that peace, that understanding and that dialogue. And the idea that an organisation that is dedicated towards the good of the Palestinian people and bringing about long-term peace and social justice and political justice in the whole region should be labelled as a terrorist organisation by the British government is really a big, big historical mistake. And I would invite the government to reconsider its position on this matter and start talking directly to Hamas and Hezbollah. That is the only way forward to bring about peace.
All right, let's break that one down. So at the time of that video, Hamas was a listed terrorist organization in the UK and Hezbollah was not, but now Hezbollah is a listed terrorist organization in the UK. So when he talks about it's a shame that they're listed as a terrorist organization when they're promoted to peace and social justice and political justice, he is referring to Hamas. At this time that he is saying Hamas is committed to social justice, and so political justice, but social justice, what does social justice mean? In Hamas's charter, they had that there will not be peace in the world until all Muslims take up arms against the Jews, and the Jews will try and hide behind the rocks and the trees, and the rocks and trees will say, hey, O Muslim follower of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come kill him. That's a hadith, it was in there. Also explicitly, that their goal is to defeat the Jews and kill Jews was in Hamas's charter. They also say in their charter that the entire nation of Israel, Palestine, and Middle East will be an Islamic wafik, run under Sharia law. That is in their dictate. So when he talks about political justice, he is talking about an organization, a terrorist organization, that in its charter says it's dedicated to the eradication of Jews all over the world and to turn the Palestinian territories into an Islamic caliphate, basically what ISIS tried to do. So he's pro-Jew murder, pro-ISIS, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Hamas. Now we could talk about Corbyn and so many things. I mean, a lot of British people point out he was friends with the IRA when they were bombing Britain. There's never a terrorist he doesn't like. Jeremy Corbyn is a scumbag of all scumbags, and he proves that the left really has no morals. And if you think that's just a one-off, here's a picture of Jeremy Corbyn laying a wreath at the graves of the Munich terrorists. So the PLO, which is the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which is now the government of Palestine, it was an organization started in 1964 by an Egyptian terrorist in Jordan named Yasser Arafat, and he would become the leader of the Palestinian people, even though he was born in Egypt and set up shop in Jordan. And if you want the PLO Liberation Organization, 1964, the so-called occupation, as they claim, begins in 1967. So what are they liberating from? We don't know. Oh, in the PLO's 1964 charter, fun fact, they explicitly state that the West Bank and Gaza are not part of Palestine. They explicitly state that. But details, schmeetails. So 1972, the Munich Olympics, the PLO organizes a kidnapping and murder of all the Israeli athletes. They murder them, break into their hotels, murder them, take them hostage, kill them. At the grave sites of one of the terrorists, you saw Jeremy Corbyn laying a wreath to commemorate the fallen terrorists. This is a man he is praising who murdered Jews. He has been friends with the PFLP, another listed terrorist organization, who orchestrated a bombing of a synagogue, the mastermind of a synagogue attack. He is friends with this man. We can go down the list of Jeremy Corbyn anti-Semitism. There is There's a whole dossier that's on the internet you can look up on the Labour Anti-Semitism Report. Some of it will blow your mind. And if you know anything about Jeremy Corbyn, it should not shock you in one little bit. But my wider point here is, how empty is the anti-racist claims of the left? And it's also a warning to every other so-called minority group out there that, do you really think that the radical left has your best interests in mind? If you're a black, transgender, cephalopod, you know what, you're safe for the next 15 years. And no one's going to come at you, okay? You got it on lockdown. Have fun. But to every other minority, do you really think the radical left has your views in mind? Like, this is a man who calls himself anti-racist, but he will praise open Jew murderers. He himself has been caught in so many academic scandals. His supporters have compared Israel to Nazis, have denied he supported Holocaust deniers, all this different stuff. And the radical left and the wider left will support him. These are the people supposed to be no to racism, right? And there's another party, not just the conservatives. They could go to the liberal Democrats. Some of them have defected, and good on them, and they're saying, okay, I'm voting Lib Democrat, not Labor. But a lot of people on the left say, hey, you know what, he's going to increase healthcare funding, so if the Jews have to die and we have to support terrorism, so be it. But if that's going to be your ideology, then admit to yourself that you're not an anti-racist activist. And again, this goes back to the theory of intersectionality and the victim hierarchy. And you could say, oh, it's just the Jews for now. But I think I've shown that on this issue, it's actually Jews and Hindus for now, because it's using the Kashmir issue. And you could say, okay, it's just Jews and maybe Hindus now. But what happens when your selected, minority group runs against the intersectional road? And right now we have the sort of radical feminist lesbians, right? Lesbians and gays. Sorry, trans beats gay right now. So we have a bunch of kids being fed the trans ideology. And like most of the research shows that a lot of the gender-confused children, by the time they reach 18, about 60 to 90% of them, and 60% on the very, very low end, turn out to just be gay. Standard gay people. But now, there's a war on gays and lesbians, and we're basically pumping them full of experimental hormones, chopping off their genitals, and telling them to go out there in the world. How is this not an assault on gays? And just wait until you're a gay person, you're a lesbian, trying to bring up these issues of the fact that they're mutilating your children. You get the kill all TERFs. We went into this last week. There was a rape crisis center in Vancouver that was vandalized because it wouldn't let people like Jessica Yaniv. It said, no men in our rape crisis center. It's only for women, biological women. The only one in Vancouver just for biological women. Vandalized, death threats, transgender activists basically backed it up. The media was silent. The government was silent. Everyone just let it happen. So this is my thing to you is, how long do you think you're going to be on top of that intersectional pyramid? Transgender black Muslim cephalopod, you know what? You're good for the next 25 years. You're good. You're up there. Maybe, no one's coming for you yet. But what if you're a black Christian male? How long until blacks become useless to the left and then you just become another pawn? And what I'm showing you with the Labour Party is just when they were confronted with the anti-Semitism within their party, most people doubled down on it and justified it. Well, yeah, Jews do control the banks, and they embraced the anti-Semitism, and they validated it. And they validated Jews are bad to maintain the image that they actually are anti-racist, and it's no, the Jews are bad. And this is standard human behavior. When confronted with facts contrary to your strongly held beliefs, you usually hold stronger to your beliefs. When doomsday cults, when their doomsday thing doesn't happen, it's usually they get even more strident in their beliefs. We know this to be true. It's the same thing with Labor and anti-Semitism. And it will be the exact same thing with Labor or the Democrats or the Liberal Party when gays start to stand up to the radical transgender rhetoric. No, maybe gays are a depraved lifestyle. Maybe all this stuff about gays being too sexually obsessed is true. Right? They'll build the homophobic rhetoric to justify why you need to shut up and cut the genitals off that child. So if you think the anti-racists are out there with 1 ounce of principled anti-racism, look no further than everyone who's willing to vote Labour. 87% of Jews in the UK think Labour is anti-Semitic. Half of Jews in the UK are so scared of Jeremy Corbyn that if he wins, they are considering leaving the UK. Strongly considering leaving the UK. Half of the Jews in the UK would leave or strongly consider leaving if Jeremy Corbyn gets elected. And the left is ignoring this. And there are leftists in America, proud radicals, who are actively supporting Jeremy Corbyn. They don't need to. They could back away from it. They just don't need to get involved. I understand why people in Britain might get involved, because your favorite little political ideology gets tangled up in there. But people like Linda Sarsour, well, obvious. Sean King, what are they? Why are they so big on pumping Jeremy Corbyn? And the answer is he pushes some of their economic and social policies. So because he's a lifelong Brexiteer, but because he's sort of wishy-washy on Brexit, we can support him. Because he wants to increase funding to healthcare, well, then screw the Jews, right? The Jews are now standing in the way of healthcare. So, screw the Jews if we get the healthcare. And these are the people who put themselves up as anti-racist. And I'm saying to every other group, you already see it with the Hindus. You already see it with the people from Indian Hindus. There's an angry mob of Islamists. They're mad. They're talking about Kashmir or whatever. Screw them. Screw them because, there's more Pakistani voters in the UK. Screw them. So I'm saying be very wary of the anti-racists who are willing to say, you know what? Screw the Jews. Screw the Hindus. They have nothing for us. And I think lesbians and gays, pretty clearly, you're the next ones on the list. Because if you start to speak up about this radical transgender ideology, well, then screw you too. And the vitriol you're seeing against any minority group, try and find me a Republican who is more racist. And the best you could probably do is some of this nonsense that Stephen King has said. But find me a Republican who said worse things about black people than Jeremy Corbyn about the Jews. And Jeremy Corbyn's level about the Jews is, I'm okay with people trying to kill all the Jews, and I am personally okay with denying the Holocaust. My friends deny the Holocaust, and I am sad when people who murder Jews, terrorists who murder Jews, dies. They are the real victims. So that's the line. Find someone who jumps over that racist line, and I'll give you a prize. Also, Brexit is a good idea because the EU is a stupid idea.